Oh, let's do a screenshot.
Oh, yeah.
A coffee screenshot, like always.
Oh, you got your elementary mug.
This was totally unplanned. Oh my
That's
god.
fantastic.
That's amazing. Oh god, that's
Oh,
so cool.
man.
Just look shocked for a second. Welcome back to your third cup of Linux plus coffee. My name's Jason Evangelo, and I am joined, as always, with newest L4E team member, Schykle. How you doing, man?
Hello, hello. I am doing fantastic.
Excellent.
It's 4 in the morning, and I could not be better.
The joys of Jitsi and time zones and
Yeah.
COVID-19. It's 1:00 in the afternoon here. I have already edited and pushed out Linux for Everyone number 40, had breakfast, had 3 cups of coffee, and now we're going to record a long overdue episode of Linux plus coffee. I apologize for that. That is completely my bad. But sometimes life and Legionnaire's disease gets in the way, but it's all good now. So how have you been, man? I mean, we've talked on Telegram and everywhere else, and you've done a couple videos now for the channel.
Yeah. You know, I think I've been making progress in my life in general. I recently decided to create and set up like a little studio area in my room, so that way I have a little place to sit down and work at. I will be getting rid of these 70s authentic.
No, I don't know. That's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like your stamp, your signature.
You know, maybe I'll have them like up on the wall in the background, like an homage. Yeah. What about you? Have you been recovering?
When I got out of the hospital, we stayed here in Zagreb for about a week or 2, week and a half, and then my wife was like, you should really get some sea air. It's good for the lungs. And at that point, like, I was, walking one flight of stairs and just exhausted. Like, do some dishes, take the dog out for just a quick walk around the block, and I was wiped out. And we spent probably, as regular viewers of Library and YouTube probably know by now, the channel temporarily got changed to Croatia for everyone, because every video had like some scenery from the Istrian region where I was at in Preventura, Croatia. So long story short, we were at the sea for about 5 weeks.
Wow.
And when I got there, I was kind of a mess, And when I came back, I had been like, there was one day that we hiked like more than 10 kilometers, plus went swimming, plus, walked to the sea, plus, I mean, I feel a million times better now. Oh. And I don't know if I should chalk that up to the sea or just time, time and positivity and exercise maybe. But yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm feeling great, and I am really looking forward to jumping back into Linux for Everyone, like,
heck yeah,
beyond full time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good to have you back.
Thank you. And it's good to be back doing this with you, man. I really missed just these casual chats. So I don't think we had any outstanding topics or things to kind of bring back into this episode from our last one, but we did promise to actually put more coffee talk into Linux plus coffee. And I promised you guys a little bit of my experience with coffee culture in Croatia and by extension, Eastern Europe. A lot of people have asked, what's it like living there? What are some of the differences? And to me, this is one of the biggest differences is coffee. And that's a big deal to me, because coffee is something that I have way too many times per day. And it's kind of a big part of my life. I'm gonna do this, Schykle. When you go out to get a coffee,
yes,
okay, in Arizona,
I'm already scared.
Which I think, like, you can name or not name where you go. I don't care. But when you go out to get a cup of coffee anywhere, in your city, what is that experience like?
There's two, I think, major places that I go, and the first is when I'm just kind of super casual in a pinch. I just want to taste something bitter, and that's usually Starbucks.
I'll agree with you on the bitter part. Yes. Your burnt
And then,
$4 coffee. Yeah.
oh yeah, oh
Mhm.
you can taste every burned bean.
Oh yes. Thank you, Howard.
Delicious. Yeah, scenario two, typically, we have a little place here called Blackheart Coffee, and they get coffee from Brazil, I believe.
Oh.
And at least that's the only one that I've tried so far, because I'm afraid to try something and be disappointed, so I've only stuck to one thing. And honestly, every time I drink it, I feel so at peace with everything. It's almost like sitting down in like a really, really cool like Japanese place and getting like authentic tea served to you. Like it's that
Oh.
kind of feeling.
And like taking off your shoes and crossing your legs and having the
Yes.
cushions and
The
right.
whole thing, just the taste, it just my whole
Wow.
body is just relaxed, and I don't really think there's any other drink I've had that with.
Is this specifically just coffee or is it some kind of espresso based drink?
I honestly have no idea. I don't I really
like
don't.
black drip coffee or like a latte or
As it's black drip, yeah.
oh okay
That
so it's just it's
definitely.
coffee, right? It's kava in Croatian, Kava.
Oh, that's cool.
So how much does that cost you?
About $7.
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
okay. This is what I have observed in the 41, man, I shouldn't give away my age like that, but the 41 years that I lived in America is that everybody loves coffee, but no one appreciates it, right? No one takes the time to appreciate it. It's always go, 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 walk in the door, get annoyed that there's a line, stand in line, place your order, go stand in another line and wait for your coffee to be delivered to you in a paper cup so that you can leave and get on with your day. And
I resemble that remark.
and you pay like anywhere from probably $3 to $7 for that experience. What shocked me when I moved to Croatia is that for starters, the whole pace of life is just way slower. There's no Starbucks here. There's no big chains here. They're always like neighborhood run coffee shops, right? And every block has like 10 coffee shops. You cannot, I'm going to say literally, and I don't abuse that word. You literally cannot walk 60 seconds in this city without crossing a coffee shop.
Oh,
And
wow.
and they're called cafe bars. They're not just cafes, they're cafe bars because when a Croatian asks you to go out for coffee, that can just be a beverage, right? You can go out for coffee and come home drunk. That's just how it works. There's a bunch of different, I don't know all the words by heart, but one of the most popular coffee drinks here when you go out to a cafe bar is, cappuccino, which I'm sure everybody in America knows. Everybody in the world knows cappuccino. Coffee with milk, which is going to be like a pulled espresso shot or 2 pulled espresso shots with just some cold milk added for cream, right? Speaking of milk, there is no, like, you get coffee with milk, okay?
Yeah.
You don't get coffee with skim milk, coconut milk, soy milk, almond milk,
There's too many
non-fat milk, right?
Of.
It's milk. It's
Yeah.
milk. It's full fat. Deal with it.
Oh, I
Enjoy
appreciate that.
So I will order a cappuccino, and I would say average price for cappuccino here, 9 kunas, which is about $1.40.
Oh, wow.
Not only that, but like you go into these cafe bars and you don't go up to a register, you just sit. Even if that's all you're going to spend. So you can order what you want. They will come to you. They will bring it to you in a nice, ceramic mug. You'll sometimes get like a little cracker, a little cookie on the side, and a glass of water. I've been here like 2.5 years. No one has ever brought me a bill. right? You always have to ask, "Hey, I'm ready to leave. Can I get the bill?" And that is, I think, a reflection of how much slower paced life is here. You know, because coffee shops in America, restaurants in America, you're either paying up front or like 5-10 minutes into whatever you're doing. Like, here's the bill. Can't wait to get rid of you. We can get the next person in here.
Wow, that's
so
incredible.
It's just it's so refreshing.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, do you have any questions?
Honestly, you had me at glass of water because they charge you for that too here.
I know. And that's so nice because, yes, of course I'm going to be thirsty after I drink my cappuccino, right?
Yeah. Wow. And then the little, like, just the courtesy of not pressuring you to leave right away either. Or here, worry about paying first instead of enjoying it. I mean, there's so few places here that do that. And I mean, none of them are casual places either. The only places I think you can actually have that kind of experience here are like top of the line high class restaurants. And like, obviously that's just ridiculous. That's, you know, you're expecting to pay at least $100 for a meal to get that kind of experience where you're not pressured. So the fact that
Indeed
is commonplace is mind blowing to me. That's incredible.
One of the other interesting things is that you can smoke in all of these cafe bars. So if you're a smoker, that's a very, very Eastern European thing, right? It's not a taboo type of thing as it is in America. Now, I enjoyed that when I was a smoker. I'm not anymore.
Understandable,
I quit
definitely.
Recently, but that's one interesting little detail. It's less about the coffee than it is about the experience, I think. The shared experience, maybe. Flavor profiles, that's an interesting one because there's in my experience, right, there seem to be only 2 or 3 espresso bean brands that cafes use here. It's pretty consistent. If you go to a busier cafe bar, I've noticed that those are sometimes better because if you go to a slow one, like out in the middle of nowhere, maybe they're, if you're a real coffee snob like me, you can tell that their beans might be a little stale. Like they were ground maybe a couple days ago or something, or whatever, and you can just tell the difference. But for the most part, it's really consistent. You know, there's no caramel frappuccinos, there's no vanilla lattes. It's just very basic. And there are some specialty coffee shops that are very much American influence, which I also like. There's one here called Cogito, and they have the best beans. They're a roaster also, but they have like the very American inspired drinks. Like they'll have their white mochas and the chai lattes and, you know, specialty stuff like that. So you can kind of get whatever you want, but the default coffee experience here, it's cheap and it's leisurely and it's good.
I like that. That's incredible, especially because the experience is part of it. I mean, I think coffee here is so tied to just being a startup or like a kickstart that people don't really value it. Right. They just value the effect. They're like, "Oh, hype me up, hype me up." Oh, I'll tell you what though. It's not even really coffee. At this point, it's just a dessert. But at Starbucks here, we have this thing called the caramel ribbon frappuccino crunch or something like that.
Okay, when I worked at Starbucks, right, there was a caramel frappuccino. That's it. There was none of this like we're going to add cookies and turn it into a milkshake type of thing.
They went crazy with it. There's little like caramelized like sugars that get sprinkled into it with caramel drizzle and like whipped cream. It's absolute madness. It's so good.
That does sound good, but that is also how you get the diabetes.
Oh, yeah. I don't even want to know how much sugar's in there. I just pretend that I don't.
Man. So let's move into the concept of a cloud operating system. Would that be accurate to define CloudReady?
I don't think there's a better term.
Cloud-based Linux operating system?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Until you started playing around with it, and you've been playing around with so much lately that you remind me kind of my my first like 6 months with Linux, where I was just like, "Give me everything." I hadn't heard of CloudReady until you started messing around with it, and I think that you can. Well, Why don't you just tell everybody what the heck this is?
So, CloudReady is an operating system based on something called Chromium OS. And the basic core of that is Chrome OS, what runs on Chromebooks. It's mostly a web browser that runs on the Linux kernel, and everything that you do is typically stemmed from the browser. So your apps that you have are either extensions or they're web apps, and there's not really a focus on on-device processing power. The benefit of these kinds of things is that because they're web-based, you don't have large internal drives. You don't have a massive requirement for CPU power, or even for like large RAM amounts, because you're not necessarily keeping these things on your device. So, CloudReady intends to make things like Chromium OS more accessible and installable on normal hardware. Because typically you would have to build Chromium OS yourself from source, and that's not fun.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Absolutely not. And I think what really caught my attention with this is that I was looking for ways to just push people's buttons.
You? Come on.
And what better way than to find a fully web-based operating system based on Linux? Turns out a lot of people use it because it's actually really effective in educational environments, in a lot of business environments, and CloudReady in particular is different from Chrome OS because it doesn't actually run full-fledged Chrome OS, and it doesn't have the Play Store. So you do make a little bit of a sacrifice for that convenience, and but you are granted developer mode out of the box. You can open up a terminal, and you can even enable Linux apps inside of CloudReady. So you do have some flexibility there.
When you say enable Linux apps, are we talking about in a WSL type of fashion, or are we talking full-fat GUI Linux apps?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So it's really weird because to enable it, it's really easy, actually. You just click on the little button in the settings. It says turn on. It sets it up, but it launches it in a virtualized environment.
Oh, okay.
That is not separate from your desktop. So essentially, when you type into your main search menu, you can actually see items that you've installed in the Linux VM in your host OS and launch them as if they were native apps.
So it's pretty seamless. It's kind of transparent, right?
Honestly, incredibly impressive. I think the only downfall is the slight performance hit, especially with graphical applications like games or anything like that.
So the latency factor, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But everything else is, I was not expecting it to be so clean.
Didn't you actually produce a video for the channel using CloudReady?
I did. I've actually made 3 videos total so far using just CloudReady, which I think has been fairly impressive because that was a huge hurdle for me, is I don't have OBS. I don't have Audacity.
Oh,
I don't have...
You didn't do... So what software do you use in that case?
So,
to capture yourself, to capture apps, to edit?
The wonders of Chrome, all hail Google. There's extensions that can actually use the screen sharing functionality of Chrome and feed that back into a video feed that can be piped into a file. So essentially, the share your desktop or the cast function can basically be fed to a file just like any other screen recorder. The trick is finding one that's good and not riddled with ads. The downside of everything being web-based is that you can cram all kinds of random crap into things because it's the only option, right? People are clicking on it.
Can you run any of these apps locally? Is that even an option to run them on your actual hardware versus virtualized in the cloud?
That is a really good question, and it's one of the pain points, I think, both in the perception and a little bit in the reality of Chromium OS or CloudReady right now. And it's that some things do run just locally and other things don't. And sometimes there's not really a clear differentiating factor or signal that tells you whether it's capable of doing that or whether it actually does work
I see.
until you're there testing it.
Mhm.
There's a flag in the Chrome Web Store that says works offline. I can guarantee you that works offline does not mean that it will be offline. It's just like if you happen to unplug your Ethernet cable, then it will fall back to offline mode. Where
Okay.
I think preferably some things you would just want always offline.
What about gaming? Did you try gaming at all?
On CloudReady, unfortunately, without the Play Store, you'll be lacking access to maybe some Android apps. There are some really good mobile games that scale up to like a tablet or desktop mode quite impressively.
Like Asphalt?
Yeah, Asphalt.
That game's a
still blown
blast. I
away by
love that game.
It's so fun. I'm almost mad that I enjoy it so much because it's just so good. It sucks me in.
Yep.
That being said, you do have the option of installing things via Linux in the VM. However, because it's in the VM, you'll have those graphical issues.
Okay.
So the primary thing you're going to be probably looking at is there are a lot of Chrome extensions or Chrome apps that are actually in browser games. Browsers just run so much these days that it's hard not to find something that can be made into a browser. Stadia is probably the best experience and option unless you've got...
I didn't even think about Stadia being an option for that.
Yeah. And so the laptop that I have currently,
That's
because I'm actually
Inspiron
waiting for
right?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It handled it beautifully because it's like an i7 10th gen processor.
Sure.
However, I have an actual Chromebook that was sub $300 with some kind of weird dual core, super low power processor in it, 768p screen. Obviously, not getting top marks, right? It's a cheap laptop. But with Stadia, all of that is really offloaded to the cloud. None of the processing is really being done. All you got to do is push the pixels and suck the internet from the tubes. And what?
Holy crap, that's...
What am I saying?
So my question for you.
Yes.
I have an Asus E203M. Now this is a very cheap, this is a sub $250
Ooh.
11-inch, class notebook with a dual core processor and 4 gigs of RAM and like a 32 gigabyte eMMC flash. I got this to do a comparison of Windows 10 because of course they foolishly load Windows 10 on here and it's a dog, as you would imagine. And currently has Peppermint OS, which runs like a dream and gives this sucker like 9 hours of battery life. In your experience with something like CloudReady, do you think that for most consumers, not people like us who are power users or content producers, but like your average PC user, could they buy a cheapy laptop like this and have an enjoyable, responsive experience?
I genuinely believe so. And I believe that for 2 reasons. The first is because I've just seen so much of everything move to web-based stuff. I've been using computers since I was a kid, and granted, I'm not very old. But we started with floppy disks and Windows 98. Actually, I had Windows 95 at one point. So that wasn't really a concept at that point. And then I went through the era of Flash games, where that was the reality of playing games in the browser. Like, that was a huge step. That was like, oh yeah, now we can play games at school.
Nice.
That's the peak right there. And now we can load pretty much everything from chat clients in. We can manage entire arrays of computers from a single page in a browser.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy how much of the world runs on a browser now.
Yeah, I mean, and docs can be edited on the browser. They save automatically.
You, as we kind of alluded to earlier, but I didn't specifically call it out. You edited.
Yes.
The Bash Top video. Was it Bash Top?
It was Bash Top, as well as my It's Just a Chromebook video, my channel intro for Schykle.
Yeah. So you have edited multiple videos using CloudReady over the web.
I'm
That's
still not
nuts.
fully understanding it because I'm still impressed. And so I think that not only experiencing that and realizing just how much can probably be solved on the web, I think what really got me as well is that I've put it on a variety of machines, everything from my desktop, which is ridiculous and nobody should do that because that's actually probably borderline dumb, but to really low-end laptops similar to what you have there. That's kind of like an HP Stream.
It is very,
device,
very,
right?
very similar to an HP Stream. Yeah,
Right.
same price range, same market.
Yeah. And it flies, especially in comparison to Windows. Now, I will give Windows a lot of praise considering what it does. It scales admirably. It is a full-fledged operating system that runs on like hundreds of thousands of different device configurations. I gotta give it props. The fact that it can even run blows my mind.
I can't believe I didn't ask you this already, but how's it look?
You know what? It's kind of like they got rid of the concept of like top panels that you might see on macOS.
Okay.
Somewhat kept the idea of a taskbar with Windows. So you've got your launcher on the left. In the middle is where you have your apps. So it's like a dock.
Oh, okay.
And you can pin things, remove them from there, do all kinds of stuff like that. And then on the right is all your notifications. And they'll be in a little system tray. And it
sounds
similar.
Clean.
Yeah,
it sounds very clean.
Incredibly simple. And the app menu slides up from the bottom if you want a full screen app menu. Unlike Windows, where Cortana is probably the most useless assistant you could have, Google Assistant is probably best in class. It really is its own class. There's nothing else that really steps to Google Assistant in the flexibility of the types of responses it can give you. And having it integrated in your system is unrealistic almost. It's capable of understanding what you want so well. If it's a setting in on your device, it just seems to know that you're looking for that and takes you there. Or if it's a search on the web, it just does it. And if you ask for the time, it doesn't bother opening up Edge to show you the time in Bing. So just taking digs at Cortana now. It just tells you in the search bar, rather than opening up an app for information it could give you right then and there. It's just so clean and simple, and I think these things is what makes it appealing to the general public.
Well, of course, because they're already used to that on their phone.
Exactly.
Or with their Google speakers or their Amazon Echoes or whatever. Why? But my question is, why is that not a standard on the Linux desktop by now? Is it because nobody wants to use Google? But if that's the argument, then why don't we see Mycroft AI further developed?
Nobody wants to give their data to anyone else. No one.
I don't care. I don't
either.
Like I'm not ashamed of my data. You know what? I'm that pragmatic guy who's like, have my data. I really don't care. Am I getting value in return? And are you abusing that data? Those are the only two things I care about.
Let me kind of show you my level of I don't care in two ways. Alexa, good morning. Good morning. Alexa, stop. Example number 2. Okay, Google. Hello. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's in my bathroom.
No, I couldn't hear that
right now. I have 6 of them in my house. I have 5 Alexas. I have 3 Cortanas.
Dude,
and 2 HomePods.
You might have a problem.
I have a very big problem.
Wow.
But the way I see it
do they all argue? Do they argue with each other when you're not around?
Oh, I wish I could never get that to work. I was so hoping that I could get them to talk to each other, but it's like as soon as those videos went viral,
oh man,
they patched it or something. But
darn.
Yeah.
Okay, all of those like philosophical privacy, arguments aside, I want to see assistance on the Linux desktop.
Yeah.
Not just for selfish reasons, but for accessibility reasons.
Absolutely.
Why don't we have that?
We have a huge accessibility problem, and honestly, there are solutions. It's just that, and it's not that we don't have the technology either. It's just our willingness to implement that technology, support it, and use it.
I have a couple machines that I'd be really interested to try this on. And what is the hardware compatibility like for CloudReady?
Surprisingly flexible. So there are other projects out there, and I will give props to the Brunch project. And I had somebody try and convert me to this a while back, but Brunch is more close to Chrome OS because it will actually load the Chrome OS recovery images and kind of like shim them onto an actual usable image.
Okay.
The difficulty with those things is that hardware support is not really there because they're using like actual Chrome OS images, whereas with CloudReady, they can build it with support for anything that Linux kernel supports, which includes my desktop hardware, my AMD graphics card, which is barely even supported on normal Linux distributions sometimes. So
it must be 5700 XT.
Yep, that's the
how'd
one.
I know? How'd I know?
Yep.
Yep,
And
that's why mine is sitting in a closet right now.
Yeah, it's really sad because
It is sad.
It's decent hardware. It's just
it's fantastic hardware.
It's struggled with the drivers.
Anyway, it's a bummer.
Definitely, but it's pretty flexible. Intel is typically probably one of the best bets, just because that's about as standard as it gets. Once I don't believe it supports NVIDIA at all, or it might only support older NVIDIA cards.
Okay.
And that's probably purely just because like it's not really a thing that can be enabled in the Linux kernel, just because it's not part of it.
No,
and
things Nouveau, like the Nouveau driver though.
I think the Nouveau one, which is probably why it works for older cards but not newer cards.
Okay.
It's just because it just won't load properly with newer cards. But it is possible. It's just it's very finicky, so like I wouldn't even place a bet on it.
I'm gonna put it on my my little Asus 11-inch laptop.
Yeah,
and see
I recommend it, and I'm not even just saying that because I really like it. I'm saying that just because like I learned a lot from this experience, and I was very impressed with what I was able to do with it. And I think the biggest thing is just the perspective shift. Is just learning how to do things from a way that seems like it's harder to do because I'm used to something else. But when I look at it, yeah, there's so much less in the way of me and the result. And even though there's a level of trust that you have to add to get to that point, because you have to be able to trust the people serving you the data, which is Google, like you're relying on them. It really does clean things up a lot. And I think that that's what really makes it appealing for normal people is that it's just about the task. It's not about your operating system. It's about having a thing to do.
It's about the apps.
Yes.
And that's what people want at the end of the day. They want their apps in an easy, approachable way. And I'm talking now, granted, listeners, viewers, you're probably not the target audience that I'm describing. I would imagine then, do you even have to deal with updates? Or do those just happen?
They just happen. Yeah.
They just happen, and it's in the background or not even visible at all. And
you can manually always running on stuff, and you can hit the refresh button and just keep spamming it. But for the most part, you just leave it be. And typically, CloudReady runs about one version behind on average of official Chrome OS. Okay. And that's mostly just because they're rolling their own. They're not as big as Google is. And also, they also have other hardware to work with and enable because they're not just working with official images.
I apologize if I sound ignorant here, but I haven't actually used Chrome OS since the original Google Pixel notebook came out, which was probably like 8-9 years ago.
My condolences.
So I really haven't experienced Chrome OS at all.
Yeah.
At all in recent times.
I barely just started playing around with it again. I mean, it's been ages for me, and it's a very different experience, and I think it's just the maturity of it that has changed a lot of how it works.
Well, so if you guys want to give this a try, we'll have all the relevant links in the show notes, as well as the description for this video on YouTube and also on Library. That's right. Linux for Everyone is also on lbry.tv, so you can look for us there as well if you don't like the whole, Google Overlord thing in your browser.
We need to make a cheer for LBRY.
It does sound cheerable, doesn't it?
Really does.
LBRY. Dun, 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 dun. Like some kind of rhyme with Y. But yeah.
I'm down.
LBRY. Use it or we're gonna die. I don't know.
I want to add one more thing to this, though.
All right, do it.
All right. So I went a little crazy with the Chrome OS stuff and the Chromium OS stuff. And I may or may not have bought a Chromebook. I ended up getting the Pixelbook Go, which is Google's current flagship.
Okay. How much did that cost?
Well, I got the next step up from the base model, and that total came about $750.
Okay.
And I think some of the biggest advantages of it is that because it's a flagship, it's getting that attention to build quality and material that Google is going to provide. It's like barely 2 pounds light. Like I can pick it up with my 2 fingers like a pinch and just flap it around. It's super duper light, almost like the LG Gram. And it's made of magnesium.
Nice.
But it is so incredibly rigid. Like I cannot physically bend it at all. Like
what about the screen? Does it have any screen flex?
It does not. It like you have to.
That's a beautiful thing.
Really push it. And like I was in Best Buy trying to break this laptop, and I could not.
Oh, you must be Best Buy's best friend.
Oh yeah, they loved me. I remember installing Ubuntu on their Surface Studio about a week after they got it. Yeah.
Oh, but that can't beat. If you have not yet seen my interview with Ryan Sipes of Mozilla Thunderbird, he shared his Linux origin story. And let's just say, like, you need to watch that. It's at the front of the episode. You don't have to watch the whole interview if you don't want to. It's in like the first 4 minutes. You have to see that. Jason had a card up here. What he did to his school. Let's just leave it at that. You really have to. You have to check that out. It's hilarious. So, Schykle, what I'm hearing from you is that a completely free cloud-based operating system inspired you to spend $750 on a Google laptop.
I guess it wasn't so free, was it?
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of in the same boat with Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have a master account on Steam. So I downloaded the game, right? It doesn't cost me anything, but now I'm ready to spend like $300 on HOTAS, hands on throttle and stick with like a, rudder and pedals. And like, I'm ready to just turn this entire desk into my flight simulator cockpit. That's how much I'm loving that game.
So wicked.
It's so relaxing. It's like one of the most relaxing experiences after you learn how to land. It's relaxing after that. I think that's going to do it for Linux Plus Coffee.
Yeah.
Episode 3. Raise your mug and get ready for Elementary 6.0. It's going to rock your socks off.
Oh, yes.
It is going to rock your socks off.
So good.
If you want to keep up with us on Twitter, Telegram, Discord, we'll have all the links to join the community in the show notes in the description for this video, as well as some links for Schykle's many different social profiles out there. Well, Schykle, it's been a blast.
Boy. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Leave a comment. I have no idea what you guys would possibly comment about this episode. There's probably more than enough to make fun of or disagree with. So help yourself to the comments section or reach out to us on Twitter and let us know what you thought about the episode. And that's going to do it for us. This is the longest goodbye ever. My name's Jason. On behalf of Schykle and the entire Linux for Everyone team, you guys take care. Take care of each other and drink some good coffee. See ya.
So, do you know what Laffy Taffy is?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. So, they make Laffy Taffies now that are like this big. It's like an 8-inch bar, right?
Wow.
So I was talking about it in the Telegram group about how I bought one. I was like, oh man. And then I underestimated how much it was. And somebody asked me what taffy was. And then I realized I had been eating this thing all my life without actually knowing what I was eating.
I know in Pismo, California, Pismo Beach, California, or Morro Bay, maybe. Anyway, there's these saltwater taffy companies. They're called
Oh,
saltwater
yes.
taffy.
Those are so
And
good.
it's a candy, obviously, but yeah, what's in it? I don't know. Sugar, salt water.
Yeah. I just eat it. I don't even. Yeah, it could be glue. Who knows?
Also related to saltwater taffy, or related to Laffy Taffy. I have to tell you, I also enjoy a good Airhead or a good
Yes.
Abba Zabba. Abba Zabba is the
Yes.
best.
It's hard to find Abba Zabba for some reason right now. Like, it's just not in stores, and I don't know if it's just like I'll go to a store sometimes and they'll have it on the shelf at like the cashier, maybe like once in a blue moon, but never else can I find it, and it's ridiculous.
You know
But
what? My wife can never see this episode because I will not hear the end of like a mid-40s person, me being in my mid-40s, talking about Airheads, Laffy Taffy, and Abba Zabba.
okay, this isn't really even important, but like crabs are like the spiders of the sea, yeah, in
Yes,
my eyes.
yes.
So lobsters must be scorpions, right?